Hi, I would like to say welcome to all the viewers. My name is Lukai Sutsita, and we at Encounters are privileged and excited to be speaking to Nadine Truth, who is the director of the short documentary Jeannette Makes Masks. A little more about the filmmaker. Nadine is an independent filmmaker based in Cape Town. Her work grapples with themes of history and identity. Her first feature documentary, Action Commandant, won the Audience Award at the 2016 Encounters South African International Documentary Festival. It screened around the world and was nominated for Best Directing SAFTA. Her first short film, Address Unknown, won the Audience Award at the Durban International Film Festival in 2020 and won a SAFTA for Best Short Film. She received a Certificate of Appreciation from the African Union Youth Envoy in 2019. Nadine, once again, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks so much.
So I would like to get in, and the first question I have for you is the main subject of the documentary is Jeannette, and I just want to find out, where did you meet her and why was the story important to tell? Her story important to tell?
Yeah, I met her through the Steps team. As you know, the Steps are the producers of this film, and they are still doing a string of films around COVID as a theme. And they knew her from working with one of the organizations she's a part of, Scalabrini. So yeah, that's how we met. I did a research interview with her, and we decided, well, here's a story to tell, and that's how things started.
And from the research that you did to what ended up becoming the final part in edit, could you speak about how the story developed?
You know, it's a short documentary, but there was still quite a bit of research work to do in terms of meeting characters and seeing what was going on in their lives and seeing, well, what could actually be the content for the film, for the documentary, and then still going workshopping it with the Steps team, Don, Tiny, Berry. You know, it was so great to work with everyone. To creating what we did. Also working with the cinematographer Sarah Govea on this. So yeah, it was 2-3 days of shooting. And yeah, and thanks to Jeannette for also just granting us the access to her life like that. You know, what was great about Jeannette, and what made her a great character, was that she doesn't just make masks, but truly cares that people should wear these, people should have access to masks. I mean, just walking around with her in the streets, like there were still people thinking that they could wear the same masks for days, you know, and not realize you should actually be washing that out, have a spare mask. And the fact that we could walk around with her and then hand out these this masks for free as she does, and have different conversations with people was quite interesting. This was still like early in lockdown, and it was such a strange experience for me also, because you'll see we did some shots along Voortrekker Road in Goodwood, and that's usually one of the busiest roads during the day. And to see how quiet that was kind of surreal, right? So it was an interesting process. I mean, we also followed her daughter going back to school, and we didn't go into the school, we just stood outside, but you see all the precautions that the school was taking to ensure safety, COVID precautions. So to be out shooting, filming at that time, and as you also see in the film, there are some people who don't believe in wearing masks, who believe that COVID is you know, weird theory, it's not real. And so to have those conversations with people was quite interesting.
And just on the whole, you know, working with Jeannette and working with the Steps team, how different was it working on a project during COVID? You know, how different is the collaboration process during COVID as opposed to how you used to working with people before?
Yeah, well, of course we're not getting like physically together to have meetings. Everything's done via WhatsApp group calls or sessions like these on Zoom. You'll see in the film also Jeannette having meetings on Zoom. I mean, we wanted to show just life as it is, and your crew, everybody needs to be masked up all the time. We need to be sanitizing all the time. So
Mm.
it's just being super aware of those things.
And for you as director and Jeannette, how were you able to kind of make her comfortable in front of the character, in front of the camera? How were you able to foster that relationship where you could get the best out of portraying her life?
I think like with anything, it's good to meet up before the time. So you're not just coming in there and you're coming with a full crew. So we had met up before the time. We spoke on the phone and also just made it clear to her who's coming, how we're gonna do this, working out a schedule with us so that we all know what is expected and we all know like how much time we need from her and her family, and try not to go over that too much.
Mm. And I guess making a film in this, or documentary in this environment is different, to know how we normally make documentaries or make films. So is there anything that stands out that moving forward you will carry on to your next project that you've learned through this process?
I mean, just generally that meetings can be held in different ways. To use WhatsApp, to use the online space in a different way. Um, I do miss connecting with characters, or people that will participate in documentaries just face to face. Um, or spending longer times with them. But obviously, you need to, I mean, just respect kind of the situation at the moment. But yeah, that's a lesson I'll take forward, that we can jump onto a group call. We don't need to all try and be in the same place. Or sometimes meeting up can be very difficult because it takes also different kinds of resources to meet up physically. And
Mm, mm.
sometimes just like a group WhatsApp call is easier. Um, and yet that you can communicate more often that way. So, but also I think one of the lessons is that no matter if you're doing a short film or a film that seems quite, easy to do, that the research is still crucial.
Mm.
You can't just go in there and start rolling, no ways. And also, when you do speak to people, you just learn so much more about them and you're able to.
And I'm just on the point of being able to learn a lot about people through doing your research and through films like this. Maybe can I ask if how would you say this making this film has affected you as an individual, and how do you wish to see it impacting other people?
Look, the message of the film is to continue wearing masks, that COVID is real. And so for me, it's also just a lesson in not just wearing masks, but also how to take care of your mask properly. Don't just like throw it down there, or don't wear your mask for 2-3 days, that kind of thing. How to wash a mask properly. So those are the lessons I take with me. And the song at the end of the film that is
Mm.
sung by Van Vogel and Ivana Merkel, just encouraging, in a light-hearted way, encouraging people to keep wearing the mask. I think it's so important, even now that we are in lockdown 1 and level 1, and people are being vaccinated and all those things. It's still important to keep wearing the mask. Like my
And
cousin and I were talking, we're like, yeah, if we go to events now, you arrive at the event with your mask and then just take it
take it
off.
off.
So what's the point, right? So
Yeah.
really, like how important that simple thing can be,
Mm. When
or is, not can be.
on
Yeah.
a personal level, um, one thing that I saw, or that I perceived through watching this documentary, was how for some people the reality of COVID is almost like less of a lesser evil, as opposed to other social issues that people have to deal with. Jeannette touches on it in the beginning, and she says, for many people, they can't afford a mask, but I can afford to give them a mask. You know, and for me, it kind of hit how COVID is a reality in the world we live in, but for some people, it is not the most, it's not the scariest thing, you know, that affects my life immediately. You think about food, you think about a place to live. So I guess, do you have any comments on that? Is that something that when you made this film is something that you saw in the edit and wanted to push through, or was it an unintended consequence of the story?
This one, I think it's maybe an unintended consequence, but I'm glad you picked up on that.
Mm,
And yes, of course, you know, we all have these stresses around us. But I mean, with COVID, it's like if you're not protecting yourself, and fine, that might be your individual decision, but what does that mean for those around you? You know what I mean? Um, because you made that decision. I'm not wearing a mask, not sanitizing. I'm out here, but and then you get sick, and then the person next to you might not feel the same way you do about issues, and then what happens to them, you know?
mm, mm,
Um, but it is tough. It is tough, and I mean, there's wearing masks, there's sanitizing, there's also like just traditional ways of taking care of yourself, like drinking those ginger mixers and all of that. But
guilty.
ginger is also so expensive, right?
Yeah.
Um, and but it's also, I think COVID has shown us uh, well, just placed a magnifying glass again on the inequalities we have in the society,
Mm,
and how, I mean, with the food parcels thing, for example, I know this film wasn't about that, but you just saw how necessary that was, and then yet people still stole food parcels, or food parcels didn't reach the right people. There was corruption in that, and um, yeah, I mean, I think Jeannette makes masks. It's just like a short film requesting people just to play their part.
mm. And you know, maybe this is maybe a question that a producer would have more insight on, but if you do, please could you elaborate more? But you know, at the end of the film, at the end of the documentary, there were credits shown and a list of sponsors or partners from the UK Aid, Unilever, South African Health Solutions. Could you speak about your relationship with these organizations in relation to making this production? Um, you know,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's more of a producer exec question. I didn't have direct contact with those organizations. Like I
mm,
said, I worked with Steps directly, and but what I can say is that how important mentorship is, because I just felt like I was assisting in mentoring some other forms that Steps was doing, but even for Jeannette Makes Masks, we had the team there was like tiny, especially, you know, that was a process there, like just workshopping this concept. So that's always like, no matter how much experience you have, like that mentorship, that workshopping with somebody else is like crucial to the to your concept, to your project.
uh, Nadine, thank you. Um, it was, how do I put this? It was refreshing to hear, like, it's always nice to hear from the filmmakers themselves about the projects that they've made. Um, so on behalf of Encounters, you know, I'd like to thank you again for taking the time to speak to us and share your insights on this wonderful project that you've done and everything that it stands for. We wish you all the best for the future, and for the people who are looking at this and would like to stay connected more, with your work or with the project, is there anywhere where they can follow it? or you?
Yeah. So the film is on FB it's just on private right now because of the festival run, but after the festival run, it will be back on in that space. I'm on Instagram at Maengere Films, Maengere Films. Unfortunately, someone hacked my Facebook, so I'm not on Facebook anymore, but
Okay.
Instagram and Twitter, I'm there.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can just reach out and interact in that space. And from my side, just thanks to the Steps team, just and also everyone who participated in the film. It was a fun experience, but I think one of the experiences that stand out is when we were on the streets, just asking people how they felt about wearing masks and all the different responses.
Mm.
That's really stood out for me at that time.
On that note, I'd also like to thank the festival sponsors for their support, the public for joining us, and I ask that you as the public continue to engage with us on our social media platforms, which you can connect with through going to our website, encounters.co.za. Again, from the Encounters team, thank you, Nadine.
Huge
And
thanks to Encounters and just like that the role you play in documentary filmmakers' lives.
thank you so much.